Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to have you back with us again as we discuss a very pressing concern, religious freedom. 90% of the world's nations' constitutions guarantee religious freedom. But over the last decade, that very right has been disappearing and disintegrating. And over 3/4 of the global population live under a regime that severely restricts their right to practice as they please and to worship and believe in the faith that they feel most comfortable in. When we look at the disintegration of community structure, when we look at the United Nations goal of sustainable communities, we realize the sustainability cannot go on with a lack of personal right to practice as one believes and to believe and carry out that role with their family, with their community. And so we offer you these interviews from the International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington, D.C., where Time for Truth participated a few weeks ago. Here we go.
So we're back with Ayodele Ganiu from Nigeria. And he runs a very important group that can change the world. Unchained Vibes. I love the name. Africa. You know, in Africa is the birthplace of humanity, if you research. And interesting, because we go back to the birthplace and we unchain what's already there. I was sure the vibes must be very nice.
Thank you very much. You know, by Unchained Vibes Africa, we mean, you know, breaking away from the chains of censorship on our music, our film, our poetry, and other artistic expressions. Cultural expressions are very powerful tools of advocating for what is right, for social causes, human rights, democracy. But of course, authoritarians always feel threatened when they listen to music that, you know, challenges them, that threatens them. And that's why the organization is set up, that we must break away from these chains.
You know what, Ayodele? As you were speaking, you actually got me to look even more, and I want to share something with our viewers. Life with thought creates motion, creates action, because before we make the song, we think the song. It comes to our heads, and then the song comes afterwards. When we see the person we want to marry, first comes the idea. The next thing you know, we're married, we have children. So it's a very interesting thought that you transposed to me, or you transmitted to me. But with music, with art, with aesthetics, those beings that you're leader of transmit thoughts, and because it's basic to life, things occur. And it would make sense to me, because I tell you, I got a little bit nervous. I say how powerful you are, but in reality, all artists globally have this ability, and unfortunately, many times I've seen they suffer from suppression, from being quieted, maybe to prejudice because of fear that they may change things. But you know, I wanted to ask you something, because it's something I wanted to see if you agreed. It almost seems they're not suppressing even so much the artist, but do you feel that they're actually suppressing the ability of life to evolve?
Thank you very much. And I'll give you a very practical example. You know, in 2018, a terrorist organization called Boko Haram in Nigeria abducted several school children. For the second time, mass abduction. You know, the first one happened in 2014.
Child trafficking?
No.
Abduction?
Terrorists, they just abducted them.
Okay.
You know, as a way of getting government to do what they want.
Yeah.
And that was Chibok in 2014. Chibok girls, where worldwide people were familiar with that incident. In 2018, they repeated the same thing elsewhere. And, you know, a musician called Fialkoff in Nigeria, a very popular rapper, released a song. It was a cover of an American rapper, Childish Gambino's This Is America. So he named it This Is Nigeria. That song addressed the girls that were abducted and imposed Islam on them. I'm a Muslim.
Yes.
But, you know, in Islam, it's there in the Quran, there's no compulsion in the religion. You don't impose.
Freedom of choice.
Yeah, so you allow people to
become
Muslims.
It's
It's their choice, not to impose. But the only girl that did not accept Islam is the only one that has not been rescued till today, the Leah Sheribu. So this music, this song was released to address the issue, to depict the girls, the school girls that were abducted.
Yes. And
their plight and the sluggishness of the Nigerian authorities in rescuing these girls. That was what
that was what the song was about.
Was about. The song was banned.
On what basis?
It was banned that it was going to create religious tension, that it was depicting Islam. Because how else do you want to portray the girls that were forced to wear hijabs? You know, they had to be depicted in the video, in the music video.
Yes.
But the government said, no, this will create religious war, religious tension, religious crisis, blah, blah, blah. As such, this is a hate song, blah, 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 blah. But it's a lie, we know. It was a way of saving the face that the government is failing on security. Yeah. So if the artist,
yes,
if YouTube does not exist, if the social media does not exist, which government of Nigeria does not have power to ask people to take it down, if this does not exist, if we take 20 million views to be 20 million people, it is not about the artist alone that has been silenced. 20 million people, just a rough estimate, would have been prevented from accessing the information in that content.
Right.
So this is why artists look dangerous to authoritarians. So that's why the messengers, the conscious, socially conscious artists need to be protected. They need to be free to be able to champion social change.
Oh, it's very, very, very important. You know, this really brings things to light, because if you see how music empowers all of us, how much energy it brings out in all of us, and then when it does that, let's say in a wedding, and we have the music and the people dancing, and there's a tremendous good feeling that occurs on occasions like that. And interesting, because you brought out something, and it makes sense. It's we're preventing that good feeling. which actually would be giving, it's like giving light to the plants.
Yes. That's what censorship does. That's what denial of freedom does.
Right.
When you silence an artist, you are not just punishing that artist alone. You are punishing the society. You are punishing the followers, the audiences, and everyone who benefits from the message and music especially is beyond words, it's beyond message.
Oh, yeah.
It's spiritual too.
Very spiritual.
Spiritual, it's conceptual, it has its own feeling, it's moving, it moves people, it's emotional. That's why it's so powerful, and these people actually know. They know, so that's why bodies are set up, institutions are set up specifically for artistic expressions. Because they know, unlike journalists, there are no bodies specifically set up for journalists to regulate journalists. But there are bodies set up. You have censors boards for filmmakers
And music.
and music. Music is more on the radio and TV. But for filmmakers, it's total. You can't even release anything without submitting your work for approval. Wow. Yeah, so we have censors. The only escape they have now is social media.
I see.
The only escape they have is social media. But there are laws, as we speak, there are bills being prepared, being drafted
For that.
to be able to control what you
That
put
also.
on social media. Yes,
Wow.
and that's the fight that we are in.
That you're in. And let me ask you a question. Your group of artists,
Yeah.
is it in Nigeria? Is it all of Africa? Where would it be?
Okay, so before I founded the organization, I had worked across Africa. So I had worked with also international organizations like Free Muse, which is an international organization defending artistic freedom. Initially music, later all genres of art
Right.
that are censored. So I have all the connections, the network, and all that. So that helps me with the establishment of On-Chain Vibes Africa. But because of limited resources, we are more prominently present in Nigeria
Yes.
than other African countries. But we collaborate with, we have an organization called Artists at Risk Connection, based here in in New York. It's based in New York. It's part of the Pan America organization. We collaborate.
You collaborate with that group, Artists at Risk.
Yes, Artists
in
at
New
Risk
York.
Connection. Yes, they actually provide direct support to artists who are
In these
attacked,
positions.
who are threatened or imprisoned and all that. So,
Interesting. Very interesting organization. And so I understand totally why you're here. What message would you like to send the people who are going to watch this documentary about the International Religious Freedom Summit here? What message would you like to send out to them?
my message is that, talking about my own constituency, which is the artistic community, artists are some of the biggest victims of religious persecution. Music, for example, is one of the best ways, best cultural expressions to express your religious belief. In my country and in some other parts of Africa, it's always a problem when you express your religious belief through music or even film, poetry, when other people feel that they don't like your own version of the religion or your views, or they believe they are superior in terms of. So let me use Islam as an example. I'm a Muslim. We have different interpretations of Islam. People interpret Islam the way they like. In my own part of Nigeria, in southwestern, our culture is a strong influence on Islam. Islam also influences our culture. And all these are reflected in our music. Some people don't believe that a Muslim should sing. Some people don't believe that.
Interesting.
Some people don't believe that a Muslim should be singing with Islamic scriptures. Thank you.
A pleasure to have you on this broadcast. And thank you for what you're going to be doing.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are watching this, take this and let's improve our world. So we're back at the International Religious Freedom Summit, and we're here from a dignitary, a very important man from Japan, Tatsuki Nakayama, an attorney. And, you know, it's our pleasure to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you, because you traveled all the way from Japan, what stimulated you to come here to this summit?
To ask international attention for the situation in Japan, which is terrible. More specifically, Unification Church or the Family Federation in Japan is in danger of dissolution, elimination. I'm the attorney of the Family Federation, so you know, but in Japan, the situation is devastating. So I'm asking for international help, especially from the United States. Yeah, this is a very professional reason.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, in April,
Yep.
I'm looking at holding an event at the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be my honor to have you maybe come back, and you could bring other dignitaries that you feel should come from Japan, so we can put this to light in the world. What do you feel about that?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Actually, I'm trying to build the kind of connection among international lawyers who are not only lawyers, international minds who are got interested in religious situation in Japan. Because in Japan or in East Asia, they are a-religious, less religious, so it is very difficult in Japan to find such kind of lawyers who expertise in religious matters. So.
Well, it's very laudatory and it's very needed, because to me right now, attorneys would be very important. So if you're out watching this video and seeing Tatsu here, your role in bringing justice and bringing equity is so important. What do you see happening in our world in general and also in Japan that concerns you?
The world in general, historically speaking, I like history. And there's 1,000 years or 3,000 years, we are on this globe getting less and less religious, especially in this modern age, due to humanism. Before modern age, before the humanism or Renaissance, religions had a big power, love and be righteous in both ways. But after humanism, in order to be so bring love in this society, we do not, everybody on the globe, do not turn to, resort to religions. Rather, democracy, humanism, that kind of things, worldly things, helps love. So I'm very pessimistic and very sad about this situation. But I feel the importance of religions is very important. I describe this way: the worldly things, money, status, whatever, it's a horizontal, you know. But the spiritual things, heaven or God, religious things is vertical. We're getting less and less vertical, more and more, horizontal.
Right.
Am I making my point?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that it is something that's happening globally,
Yep.
where we're losing also our humanity as human beings. You're so correct. A question I have for you, because, I also love certain principles that are from Japan, and I wanted to ask you, because I don't know if they still exist, but years ago, there was the Japanese samurai.
Oh, yep.
And so I wanted to ask you, what was the goal and purpose of a samurai in Japan?
There is a typical phrase of samurai written in Hagakure. In Japanese first, Bushido wa shinu koto to mitsuketari. Bushido or samurai ways of thinking lies in dying, lies in being dead, which means samurai, they simulated to be dead every morning, every time. Then such kind of readiness to die makes them energetic, makes them no fear. They can do everything like this. Am I getting my point?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that phrase. Bushido or samurai ways of thinking lies in being dead. Wake up in the morning, I'm dead now. No fear. Then I can do everything. I can be courageous enough. Yeah. And we can contribute to society with no fear. This is samurai's ways of thinking.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very prepared.
Yeah, prepared. Prepared to be dead every time. For example,
Yes.
I'm ready to die now. Now, I have 3 children, but I'm ready to now. I have been forcing myself or disciplining myself. You can be dead anytime. For more specifically, in order to be dead every time, I do as much as I do for my kids, for my wife, to my client. I don't want to leave anything behind. I don't want to die with regret. I believe this is samurai spirit.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Also, very interesting, because as you were talking, I got the concept that a samurai, as a human being, had a very clean space, so that when he went, as a being, he was very free.
Mm-hmm.
So when he left the material plane, he was very free. He was not trapped.
Yep.
And it's almost like God would reward the
Yeah.
samurai with peace.
Yep.
People talk about heaven. Very interesting.
Yeah. You mentioned free or freedom. With that phrase, I like the quotes of Abraham Lincoln and also the Pope III. He said, they said, freedom does not lie in the right to do what we want. That is not freedom. Freedom lies in the right to do what we ought. This is my belief in freedom. I'm here to help infamous Family Federation Japan, but I'm free to take this case because my belief in freedom is to do what I ought. Actually, the Family Federation Japan tried to find an international lawyer like me, but nobody took that case because they're so infamous. But I took that one because I had believed that unless people who can take risks, the world will not improve. So I was confident. I'm running my law firm, and I have a unique service of integrity. So I was confident, even if I got this case, I can survive.
Excellent. You know what? I want to validate your level of honor, your level of duty, not only to Japan, but to mankind, that you uphold the honor of mankind with your actions. It's a beautiful acknowledgement I want to give you that I'm seeing here in front of me.
Yeah, actually one of my dreams is I can see Jesus Christ, the name printed there, to beat Jesus in a sense. I like history. I learned a lot. I wondered a couple of years ago, who is the person who influenced the world most? Confucius, Buddha could be the candidate, but Jesus Christ should be the greatest person who ever influenced the world in this 2000 years. My dream is to please people, to make them happy, as many people as possible, as much as possible. The number one champion is Jesus Christ. So that is my goal, endless goal.
That's a beautiful goal.
Yeah.
And it makes a beautiful purpose, and it makes a long life. Because, you know, it's said that when you follow your purpose, you live long because you're doing what's in your heart.
So you mentioned live long. I don't want to make myself happy in my physical life. What matters to me is after my death, how I can leave my soul, after I die.
And for those of you watching, now you have a very beautiful, honorable way of looking at life, and we have a way of changing our world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, there you see a few of the many interviews we did of global religious freedom leaders from all over the globe, many nations, many religions, many races and creeds. And all were in agreement that we need to protect our human rights. When we look at what's going on globally, and when we take a message from the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy, where he actually found that scientifically we were suffering from more physical illness, increased mortality and death rate, and increased societal difficulties and crises, violence, drugs, homelessness. And Dr. Murthy found that it was due to our lack of social interaction. How can we exist in a world where we cannot worship and believe as we please and expect to have social interaction? And if we have no social interaction, the scientific studies prove out what we thought morally, religiously, and spiritually, that we won't prosper and that we'll continue to have increasing problems. Let's realize that the wars we're suffering from globally and the conflicts come from lack of acceptance, tolerance, and respect for each other. Let's this year, 2025, realize that with respect, with tolerance, and with the ability to practice as you please, in unison with your community, for the benefit of all, that then we will have a secure, prosperous, and joyous world. We hope you enjoyed this episode from A Time for Truth show, and we'll see you on our next segment. Have a very good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. The world takes you down, you just keep moving on. Let your feet